Hi, everyone. Really happy that we are reconvening for this second webinar in our community, the Winning Product Catalyst, where we today are speaking about building the elusive product. Very warm welcome to all of you. Hope you got your coffee ready. Also, I hope you're okay with us running this webinar in English, as some of our contributors, as well as our attendees, are English speaking. And I hope you don't mind that we're recording this webinar. My name is Kari Bente Skarbø, and I'm the Business Development Director of 99X. 99X is a company with some 500 techies, hyper specializing in co-creating winning digital products together with numerous of our clients. Personally, I've got approximately 15 years of experience working with digital products within the marketing and logistic domain. And for those of you that are joining us for the very first time, you should know that this is the second webinar in a row of webinars by and for product owners, product managers, CPOs, aspiring product owners, and aspiring product managers. So we've created this arena as we see there is a profound need for it, because this role is still being formed, and there is currently a wide variety of expectations and demands and hopes for this role that is probably being placed on your plate on an everyday basis. And what we see working with a lot of different products is that it's executed widely differently from company to company. So we're trying to shed some lights on how to navigate in that quite challenging environment, I would say. And the role, of course, is fundamental as product owners are key in shaping the digital products that we surround ourselves with in our private as well as our professional lives. So I would even say that you're shaping our lives. That's quite cool. So in our last webinar before the summer holidays, we were focusing on demystifying the product owner role. Today, we will be focusing on the elusive product. How do you go about it when the very product that you are set out to build is vague and unknown? Where do you start, and how do you toggle and prioritize and focus to create that winning product? It is clearly a topic that is engaging, as we have an all-time high on the attendees. I think we're pushing some 40, which is great at this very moment. So today we'll start with a real life case on how to embrace uncertainty in a big data solution. And this session will be followed by practical models and methodology that you can lean on to resolve ambiguity when building digital products. We will conduct today's webinar with a panel discussion and make sure that we end at the latest by 9:30 Norwegian time. So no more than an hour will get you back to work. And we're really happy to engage in questions. At the end of the day, this arena is for us. So don't be shy, just use the chat function to post any sort of reflections, comments, or questions that you would like to have addressed by any of us that's on today. So I'm super happy to introduce our keynote speaker, Lauren Hoivik. Lauren, she's a product manager at BUSS, Bilforhandlernes Utviklingssenter, creating software for the automotive industry. Lauren is a certified project manager and started her product career working with QA before moving into the product manager role. She has a wide experience. She's been working internationally in the US for 8 years before moving to Norway, where she's been working for 8 years. She is a high performer with a proven track record in demanding and changing environments with diverse teams. She's passionate about making a difference with the products she manages. So Lauren, I'm so much looking forward to hear your story. The word is yours.
Thank you so much, Kari. Thank you for the intro, and I'm really happy that I could be a part of this webinar series. And I will now share my screen. I agree with you that this is a much needed forum, and I'm really thrilled to both be able to present and share my experiences and also participate in other sessions. Just confirming you can see my screen okay. Great. When nothing is sure, everything is possible. I'm just going to say that one more time, and I really want you to think when you hear the words. When nothing is sure, everything is possible. This is an exciting concept, and this opens up for embracing uncertainty and creating innovative solutions when you really don't know what the road is going to look like to get where you're going in the end. And to get to the right frame of mind, imagine for a minute, close your eyes if you wish, you have a brilliant idea. You know that your company has a unique opportunity. Your company has data that can save its customers time and money. But this valuable resource has yet to be tapped into because it's not easy. You wonder, could we really build this product? Should we? Where and how do we begin? This is where we in Boost were in autumn of 2020. And although we'd had this idea of building this certain product for a long time, we finally got a green light from our steering committee and stakeholders, and 99X helped us to assemble a team of experts to actually make this product happen. So today, I would like to share some key learnings about this experience and hoping that it inspires others to embrace uncertainty as they create new products. Before we dig into this and the main content, I would really like to just share some quick information about the company and about the product so that it's easier to understand the concepts that we'll go through. So to understand the challenge, first of all, who are we? Yes, we are a company, very small company. We are 11 people in Norway and Sweden, 16 in 99X. Most people in Norway, at least, have never heard of us, and I'm pretty much sure that that's the same around the world because we are selling directly to car dealerships and mechanics, car workshops. They know us very well. We have 75% of the market share in Norway, and we're growing and expanding all the time. We've been around since 1991. We've had 30 years of profitability and healthy margins and a pure focus on developing software solutions that address the evolving needs of car dealers and workshops. We have two main products, just to quickly inform, because these are related to the product that I'll be talking about today. We have a product that mechanics use to send EU inspections to the Motor Vehicle Authority. And we have a product that car dealers use when they're assessing the value of a trade-in vehicle. We have other products as well, but those are the two that are really relevant today. So what was our idea? We had this thought that, okay, we've been around for 30 years. We have data on 3.7 billion vehicle faults. We have data from over 20 million EU inspections, even more actually, but this is the number that turns out to be valuable to us in using our data. So this puts us in a unique position. We had accumulated a significant amount of data and felt that we could begin to actually think about using this data to leverage all of this volume to predict vehicle faults based on registration number and mileage. So what is the product actually? This is just a little screenshot just to give an idea. We've created a product where you enter a registration number for a vehicle and you enter the mileage, so the kilometers on the vehicle, and then you're presented with a list of most probable faults and ranging these with a color scale to indicate how probable are these faults for this vehicle. So when we started, this concept was simple. We didn't have this visual image in mind. We just knew that we wanted to use mileage and a registration number and predict faults. And after an extensive but rapid research and development process, what we ended up with was a Microsoft Azure-based defect prediction service, which uses this vehicle registration number and the mileage in a novel statistical and machine learning model, which was tailor-made for Boost. So you can see that we had a challenge to get there from A to Z. So when we were thinking about this idea, we thought, okay, why this? why now and why us? If we couldn't answer these questions, then maybe it wasn't the right move for us. When we thought about why this, we knew that if mechanics could leverage data on typical faults when performing a job, so they've got a vehicle in, they're performing a job, if they can know maybe there are 5 other things that are about to go wrong with this vehicle, if they can then fix those faults, they can offer add-on repairs, which make vehicles safer, and they increase their earnings. And for salespeople at car dealers, if they could more accurately assess a vehicle's condition by getting better insight to not only what they see on the car today, but what could go wrong in the near future, then they could also lower their risks associated with used car sales and deliver safer vehicles. So why now? Well, we knew the product didn't exist. We saw an opportunity. We wanted to be the first and also the most reliable source of this type of data. We also knew that if we could integrate this product into existing products, then we have a kind of glue, which ensures future revenue stream and keeps customers engaged with us. And we felt that we had accumulated such a substantial amount of data that we could really rely on this data to produce accurate and useful results. So really the question for us was, if not now, when? And we felt that the time was now. And why us? As we mentioned, we have a simple mission. We want to build the software applications that the car dealerships and workshops need. And this idea really aligned with that. We have 75% of the market share, which meant that we do have a unique position with this high volume of data. And we also felt confident that we had access to the talent needed to create a big data product. Stakeholders, but also experts in 99X and innovation within our own team. So what then? How did we proceed? How do we get started? Because we still have more unknowns than knowns. And for us, the thinking was really that maturity is the capacity to endure uncertainty. If you have been around the block, if you know a thing or two, you're in a better position to handle the unknowns. And we are a mature company. We've had our 30 years of creating new products for this industry. 99X is a mature partner. And we believed in our competency and our 99X colleagues to build a high quality and creative solution. So we didn't know how to do it. We did not have the answers, not even some of the answers, but we knew we had the maturity to attempt it. We had the right vision, we had the right talent. And another key thing though is flexibility. We had flexibility with our timeline and we had flexibility with our delivery. We had no dependencies. And we knew that we would achieve a better goal if we didn't have a rigid timeline. We still set targets and I'll get back to that later, but it wasn't a make or break on a certain deadline. So uncertainty can be a success factor. And I really love this quote, and I think our team really relates to this. Very simply, so what do we do? Anything, something, so long as we don't just sit there. If we screw it up, we start over, try something else. If we wait until we've satisfied all the uncertainties, it may be too late. This applies to the product owner, product manager role. This applies to anything in life. So I think it's really an important lesson. So just to give an overview of the timeline, because when you're thinking of creating a tailor-made statistical and machine learning tool, a 1 year from first meeting to delivery is a pretty aggressive time frame. And this was a brand new type of solution for us. For this type of testing, it was also brand new. So we were doing a lot of things for the first time, and we had a phase from project kickoff, refining data, creating a model, performing testing, having our customer pilot, which was pretty lengthy, and implementing fixes before product launch. So about 1 year. So embracing uncertainty, it sounds well and good, but what does it actually mean and how do you actually do that? For us, and we were building the road as we were going. So these insights I'm sharing today, they weren't things that we decided from day one. They were things that came along as we went. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, it's so easy, you just have to plan for it. It was a group effort. It was really everybody in our team pitching in to deliver the best they could. And we came about these principles on the way. But we really realized that uncertainty left unaddressed can lead to destruction in a project. So we really focused on redefining our traditional project approach and planning for uncertainty by managing some key areas. So this is what I really like to focus on. Some elements about our team, some things about how we did testing, a bit about our timeline, and about scope. So looking at the team, there we started with the end in mind. So when we were considering, okay, what talent do we need? We had a solid core team. We looked at our core team and we thought, okay, how does this idea intersect with our core team? Knowing what we know at the beginning, what do we need to consider about what's inside, outside our core team scope? So we had to do an assessment there. And we had to think about where the teams would intersect down the road. And we knew that we needed to acquire talent. We needed a big data consultant to work closely with our product manager to shape direction. We needed developers who could perform research and development and refine data in order to build a model for this prediction service. So we built a new team, and this team was existing in parallel with our core team. Once the team was assembled and the mission was clear, the product manager really handed over the steering wheel to the team. So this was not what I would call a product manager or product owner-led project. This was truly the team's project. Product manager was very available and involved, but it was really the team, setting the work scope, developing models, coming back, checking with the product manager on how things are looking. So the team was empowered, and I hope that they would answer that if you asked them today, that they felt empowered, but we really felt that they took control, that they were really leading the effort and kind of turning things around a bit where the product manager role changed. And that required us to be a bit more hands-off, but at the same time, very available. And product manager was still available for clarifications, escalation as required. But really the most important thing was helping the team understand our data, understand the mission, and letting them go. Testing, this was very uncertain. So we know that quality in equals quality out. This was our first time ever performing quality assurance on a big data solution. So how do we do it? We couldn't bring in 300 BMW X5s with a mileage of 25,000 kilometers and check that all the faults we predicted were correct. That was not an option. What we really had to do was build competence so that our chosen quality assurance resource could really build competence in the solution and really develop an innovative strategy, because the QA strategy that we had was unique. We started already in the data preparation stage, where data quality testing was conducted to identify issues, because we had to make sure we had the right data set. If we started with wrong data, we were going to be presenting incorrect data as well. So early on, identifying issues like duplicate data, incomplete data, invalid data, or irrelevant data. And we had cases of all of those. So it was an effort in the QA side to make sure data was complete and correct. And also developing a QA strategy to assess various data quality dimensions like accuracy, completeness, uniqueness as we progressed and tested our model. And the first time you do anything, I think the classic example is a home repair project. It's the first time you've ever laid tiles. and you estimate it'll take you 5 hours. Chances are it'll take you 15 hours and it'll cost you 3 times as much. That when we're doing something the first time, it's wise to have a buffer. And we knew that our testing would take longer. And I think the effort, it even exceeded what we estimated, but we definitely needed that buffer. About our timeline. So we knew we had a moving target, and that's the concept that creates a lot of discomfort when you're managing something. But what our primary focus was with our stakeholders was to focus on what we would deliver, not when we will deliver. We were very careful to not overpromise. We were very careful to keep the message simple. We're going to create a solution where you can enter a registration number, you can enter mileage, and it will predict faults. We didn't really say much more, and we didn't commit to any timeline whatsoever. We said that this is a really exciting, innovative, forward, future-looking product, and we focused on that rather than, making big promises and not being able to deliver. So it was really exciting to see that people, when we could tell the right story, we could still engage our stakeholders. And really the conversation wasn't about time and money, which it often is. It was more about they wanted to be a part of this exciting product. And a big thing there too was to manage our stakeholders by ensuring that we could later convert interested customers to paying customers and convert interested customers to pilot customers who would also become paying customers. So that conversion and that connection was important. Also about the timeline, we talked about empowering the team, and here the team really owned the timeline. They were presenting, they learned over time that it was probably best to present a plan A and plan B, knowing that we may not make the plan A. Things happen. Just to give an example, we had 1.47 trillion, I'm pretty sure, function calculations. This number is so astounding that it actually broke machines and we couldn't do the data processing as planned. We had to spend quite a bit of time figuring out how are we actually going to process all this volume of data. But it wasn't an option to leave data out, so we had to find a solution. And then again, the quality and the innovative solution was more important than the time. We also had some coordination to do with the core team and our big data team, and also among stakeholders, just to be sure that we're aligned. But I think that, again, having a short path to decision makers, our product manager of this project is also our CEO. Very easy for him to make a decision on something, and also to engage customers and our steering committee. So that was a unique situation and also beneficial when we had so much uncertainty. Lastly, I would like to look at scope, because any product owner, product manager has probably daily thought about, okay, what's my top priority? What's in, what's out? What can I do about my scope? And it's always that we want more than we can have. And where do you begin? For us, the challenge was kind of like, if you think about doing a painting, when do you know you're done? When are you done with this painting? For us, it was, how will we know when the product is good enough? This data set and this model was so complex that it was difficult for us on the business side to even understand it. So how do we know that it's good enough? And as mentioned, with these predicted faults, we can't bring in real vehicles to verify these faults. So how do we know that it's good enough? So we did, again, rely on our team of experts to guide us on setting that target. And we had to peel back a bit and divide into versions what we wanted. And we ended up with a minimum viable product where we had just enough to start a pilot. We had just enough after the pilot with great feedback to incorporate that into the final result and launch. And we knew that that was the minimum product that we could sell. And we could build on that over time. So that really went hand in hand with our long customer pilot too, because we were able to earlier release to our pilot customers a solution because we tried to peel away everything we didn't need. And that gave them more freedom. They weren't biased. They could just see what we had and they could come with feedback. And we were able to incorporate that because we also planned for a long period after the pilot in order to implement good suggestions. So in summary, some key success factors that we felt helped us to embrace uncertainty and to manage all these unknowns as we developed this product were setting up a dream team and not settling for what is available, but looking for really who is our key player in each role in order to make this successful, and empowering the team, handing over the steering wheel to them. Starting with the end in mind, thinking about where are we headed and what is it going to look like in the end? How are we going to maintain this product? How is it going to fit into our product portfolio? And how is our core team going to interact with this product down the road? Also, the early quality assurance planning. This is something that in my mind, I would have thought about down the road, but we were fortunate to have a solid 99X team that knew that in this type of situation, we really needed to involve quality assurance resources and plan early. And also reimagining the product manager role. It wasn't exactly a classic product manager role. And when that's said, I can also just add that we're a very informal company. And for us, things, we try to simplify as much as possible and not overcomplicate. And in this project, that worked very well. We were able to easily give more control to the team. Expecting and planning for a moving target. Involving stakeholders early and often, and focusing on the what, not the when, in all of our conversations and dialogue, and landing on a minimum viable product that we could commit to. So again, when nothing is sure, everything is possible. I hope that is something that we can aim for, use, and learn from in our projects. Is something that I'm still going to try to incorporate in my next project where we're developing something unknown. And I just want to thank everybody for listening today, and thanks 99X for having me.
Thank you, Lauren. That was really, really interesting. And I'm personally, I'm thrilled about how you were able to communicate the vision of what you were making without super committing to timelines and being very specific on what you're delivering. Because what we find is that often this is a huge demand from the people around you in the organizations. Those customer success managers or commercial directors will be asking, when will it be ready? What will it look like? When can we push it out to the clients? Where is the description of the features and functionalities? And they go right into the nitty gritty, which might be extremely challenging, especially when you're working with ambiguity, which you have been doing in this project. And also you have the CFO saying how much will it cost and when will it get return on investment. So that's very interesting, that shedding the light on how you worked around that to actually get started. Thank you so much. Really appreciated that. Good. So guys, our next speaker is Chatura de Silva. He's our very own Chief Product Officer in 99X. And Chatura is a certified Scrum Master with over 14 years of experience in designing and engineering digital products internationally across a variety of domains. HR, finance, CRM, you name it, he's been there. He has been involved in taking numerous digital products from conceptualization through realization and into that maturing continuous improvement phase. And he's also been very key in creating a holistic methodology that is suitable for product companies, reflecting the maturity and the issues at hand. And a methodology which is being used by academia and professionals, well, all over really. So I can think of no one better to share insights on how to resolve ambiguity when building winning products in Chatura. And guys, remember that you can use the chat function if you have questions, reflections, or comments. Just fire it off in the chat function. So Chatura, if you will.
Thank you, Kari. So welcome to all. Let me share the screen. All right, hope you can see the screen. Okay, so after Lauren's speech, this is something that naturally came out of a presentation, ambiguity, which is related to uncertainty in product development environment. So I'm going to talk about ambiguity and why it is arising, key factors, and how we could maybe control it to better achieve the product goals. Right. So that is the objective of this session. All right. So when you build a product, there are obvious, from day one, there can be issues related to various things, challenges, right? So some of us have experienced maybe, we maybe middle of the product life cycle, or even in the beginning of the product life cycle, when we started developing products, we realized that probably we are building the wrong thing, and at that point we have probably burned some money already and wasted some time as well. So this is typical, especially in startups as well. So we've seen this. And in our projects, we see that estimates go way off, unable to meet the project expected timelines because of work, so on. And finally, what does it do? It demotivates the team, and hence you see decreased in productivity, right? So the root cause for some of it is actually ambiguity, right? So I'm going to talk about how we can, is it possible to avoid? What is the environment around the ambiguity, and some of the tools probably we can use to mitigate it. So is ambiguity avoidable? That is a key question, right? So we have to accept the reality, right? This is natural in any environment. You have certain degree of ambiguity, uncertainty, especially true in product development as well. Especially if you are a startup, then the level of it would be different, maybe higher than other teams. So the real question is, okay, ambiguity is there, then how do we control it to maximize our return on investment? So after realizing that this is actually something to deal with, how do we use it to to increase our opportunity and improve our strengths to tackle the ambiguity? So what is the environment that creates ambiguity? It's because it's always exists. The level that we need to be comfortable of ambiguity, then we need to use different tactics to control the level of ambiguity. So there is a famous framework that was discussed some time back, right? This was famously quoted by one of the US politicians, former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. He talked about known and unknowns, right? So there is this famous quadrant where we can discuss, there are certain things we know that they are there, right? And then there are certain unknowns, we know that there are there. They are there. And then you get unknown knowns as well, right? And then finally, the unknown. So when it comes to product development, our goal should be move away from as much as possible from unknown unknowns and known unknowns to the known spectrum, right? So where we have to base our decisions based on facts, right? So this is easier said than done. So this is the whole thing about product development. So ambiguity, uncertainty exists when there are known unknowns and known unknown knowns, right? I can maybe give an example. Let's say there is a, so this concept is true at different levels also. So if you look at a product, so you have the business model level, you know, you're looking at a business, and then if you look at a small feature level, there are certain ambiguities as well. So if you look at maybe, let's say there is a feature called feature to send alerts when there are appointments being created in your system, right? So there is a requirement level. Let's say that's a user story at a requirement level of a feature, but you don't know how this alert will be sent out, right? So there is ambiguity there. So the user may be expecting it to be maybe a short message or an email or some other mechanism. So these are ambiguities we need to sort out at the requirement level. But it's same way you have to resolve these things at the business model level as well. So we will talk about some of the tools that we can use to move away from known unknowns to known knowns aspects. Yeah, so when you talk about known unknowns, you can use analytical data to check facts, right? And make sure the data that you know is correct. And then if you know there are certain aspects that are unknown aspects are existing, we create hypotheses. Say, for example, you know that certain feature would be interesting for a segment of user segment, but you don't know exactly how will they take it. So you create a hypothesis and you create certain KPIs to measure it, and you test out within that user segment. So you can move away from known unknown space to known spectrum. That then you are simplifying your data. So when we talk about unknown knowns, this is all about intuition. And maybe there are certain things that others know. Let's say, for example, if I'm developing a order management system, in order management system, there are domain specific things you need anyway. Like maybe reorder level is a thing that we need to have, but maybe a person may not know about it, that you need to have such thing. So that's why you need to have team discussions, brainstorming in such in product development process. So you discover unknown knowns by interacting with others. So when it comes to unknown unknowns, these are things you not known things that you don't know they exist. So you can use research mechanisms in your product development process to uncover those. That's why we do market research, product research activities to really understand anything that we didn't know, so that we can target our product towards that as well. So it's all about having the control, right? Taking the control of the ambiguity that there is. So one of the key factors to mitigate the ambiguity and take over the control is by keeping true to your product mission and the principles. You have to have a North Star. You have a team and you have a product mission. So whenever there is there's ambiguity or uncertainty, you actually look at your product mission, where the end goal is, and what are the principles. Like if you are in a doubt to have feature A versus feature B, then you look at your principles. Okay, what are we trying to achieve in our product? What is our mission? Okay, we want to deliver impeccable user experience, delightful user experience to users, while maintaining the what do you call it, integrity of the system. So when you know your principles, you can decide which kind of feature you need to build when there is ambiguity. And there is something called first principle. I don't know whether you've heard about it. So this is a very famous principle that even Elon Musk has used. So when there is a lot of assumption, the world is full of assumptions. And when there's an assumption, for you to come up with and that if there is a problem, so you divide the assumptions into basic elements, right? So let's say there is a feature that takes long time, and somebody says, okay, this delay is unavoidable because of reason X, Y, Z. But using first principle, you can divide this into basic elements. What are the elements of this feature and how it connects to each other, and what kind of maybe services that this feature is depending on. So likewise, you can break that into small building blocks and start working from ground up. And then you realize some of the assumptions are wrong. So likewise. And the third one is break down the problem into smaller chunks. So this is very important. I think Lauren also mentioned it. And that helps to validate. So your risk is smaller when you break the big problem into smaller chunks and start resolving it, because the investment is small. And you can deliver the output, whether it's positive output or negative, within a very short period of time. So stakeholders able to see quickly whether it's failed or successful. And the fourth one is building a highly motivated and empowered team. Again, I think Lauren also mentioned it. Having the team to do something great is very important. So you have to have a team who's rallying around the product vision and the mission. So when there's ambiguity, uncertainty, these guys will deliver. And they know which direction to move forward. So again, linking to the last point, so you have to keep moving, right? So the most important thing is ambiguity always there. So it's about taking the control using certain tactics while keep moving towards the final post. So maybe we can highlight few tools to reduce ambiguity and take the control. So I like to highlight here that, it's very important to not only to build the product right, but we have to build the right product also. So you would have come across some of these frameworks in the industry, you have agile practices, frameworks, and then lean startup UX industry. They have brought in certain frameworks, design thinking. Then there is set of frameworks. So likewise, these frameworks have been there in the past to help us to navigate from this ambiguity and uncertainty towards the right solution, right? So there are various tools like prototyping tools, so that tend to help us to avoid bias and, get to the solution. And then there are lean startup UX practices that help us to get the feedback, early learnings, to avoid waste and build the features swiftly. And the great agile principles again coming in. So within short period of time, you can experiment and put something out that we can take feedback. So these are some of the main frameworks we've seen in the past. So I'm going to show you a product life cycle, a typical life cycle phases that you would see in a product. So I'm going to relate this to the ambiguity as well. Like, every product go through a set of phases. In we at 99X, we have a framework called winning product framework. So we coined this idea that every product goes through 8 stages, starting from explore. So focus, immerse, plan, build, optimize, harvest, and finally retire or renew to a new product idea. So the level of uncertainty, ambiguity differs at different stages of this product life cycle. So if you look at the explore stage, that is the very first stage. So you're going to solve something, but you don't know exactly what you're going to solve. So this is where you need to diverge your ideas and understand what are the problem what is the exact problem that you're trying to solve. So going back to that quadrant where we talked about known knowns, unknown unknowns, so we have to use certain tools and practices to move away from unknown unknowns to known knowns spectrum. So to do that, it will help for you to do that. It's very important that you understand these phases of the product life cycle, and under each life cycle, there are certain practices we can use to reduce this ambiguity, especially in the beginning of the product life cycle, where we mainly focus on the problem aspect. So we know that, right? In products, before you start building the solution, you have to really know the problem space, and you got to know what the problem you're trying to solve. So there are like 3 things I want to highlight. Activities, persona and user journey tool that you can use to reduce the ambiguity. Prototyping and MVP, most viable product. Again, that will help us to reduce ambiguity. And finally, one of the most important thing, testing the problem solution fit, right? So if you have hypothesis, then this is the time to actually get early feedback and from the market and reduce the ambiguity. So all these are documented in our winning product portal as well. I can just quickly go through some of these tools. Persona and user journey is basically to identify the type of users that will be using the product. And the most important thing is to understand what their pain points, the kind of experiences they will go through in such a product, trying to solve their problem. So again, this is linked to the value proposition model. There's another tool that we can utilize called value proposition canvas. So all these tools will help you to understand the user perspective, what their problems are, and then what kind of features that would basically help them to solve their pain points. So this will give you another sort of guidance to remove any ambiguity you might have initially. The second one is prototyping and MVP. So again, this, coined by the Lean Startup author. Again, they call it a MVP is a version of product which allows a team to collect maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least effort. So it can be a prototype or a working software, but you have to put the least amount where we can learn within a short period of time, get the maximum learning out of it. So generally, when we say MVP, there is a notion that people talk about building set of limited functionality. It's not really the case. You have to also look at the usability. They call it desirable aspects of the product also. So then you can actually end-to-end validate some of the user journeys with the user segments and get real feedback. So the testing the problem solution fit, again, is a great tool. So once you done with the MVP and you have something working and you actually go to the market and you can get a feel of how the customers are again treating the product.
Chatura, very sorry to interrupt, but we got 4 minutes left. 2 questions from the audience that I really would like to ask. So if I give you 1 minute to wrap up, would that suffice?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
All right. So, so this is another tool that we can basically use to validate the customer segment and get idea where we are heading, whether we are heading towards the right direction of the product that we envisioned. Yeah. So basically, at the end of this, you get an idea that people are willing to pay or not, and that is a very good testament to what you are building. So this should be very incremental and keep moving forward until you get to the end goal. One good example is Dropbox. Back in 2008, it was known as a simple file sharing platform, but today the director of design Dropbox, how they envision is something like, it's a tool that fosters creativity and allow people to work on the things that matters and produce productively. So this is a vision that they have now. So products evolve. That is why we need to have frequent feedback to improve the product and remove any ambiguity, even during the stable product phases, just like in the beginning.
Thank you very much, Chatura.
Thank you so much.
So my takeaway is that we need, well, connecting Lauren, when nothing is sure, everything is possible, but we need to embrace the ambiguity by controlling and reducing the unknowns. Lauren, I think both these questions are actually for you. So I'll read them both and you can choose the sequence of answering them. So when there's factors like uncertainty at play. Did you get the question?
About how you manage the budget when there's uncertainty at play?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the golden question. And we of course, we are a company that we have to make money to survive. So we did have to have an anticipated budget for the project that we had. Our focus was on X number of resources that we knew we needed to acquire. And these resources would be creating this product and probably maintaining it, but we didn't know how many resources it would take to maintain it. So we had a buffer also in our budget as far as that goes. So in a sense, that helped us because we were focusing on, say, 4 resources. And then we knew that we'd have those resources for an unknown amount of time. So we just planned them in the budget going forward. We didn't plan to remove them after a year. So that's how, plus we knew that we needed to deliver multiple versions. So we would need to have further resources to do that as well.
Very good. Thank you so much. The last question, really quick answer to that. After the pilot run is done and feedback is received, how did the prioritization happen for the next versions of the product?
Yes, that's really a good question. We had to think simply. We had a number 1 and number 2. Number 1 was must have before the product launch. Number 2 was later. And we really had to focus all of our efforts on delivering number 1 because once we had those pilot customers engaged, we didn't want them waiting too long for the actual product. So all the number 2s were put in one bucket and then had to be reviewed later, and then start to sift through those and find out, okay, what's step 2, what's step 3, what's step 4.
Great. Thanks so much, Lauren. I'm very aware that we're exactly on time. So in these times of flexibility, we will drop the panel discussion so we can stop on time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you all found it as interesting as I did. And know that we are doing these webinars every 6 weeks, a week or so. So the next one will be on Wednesday, the 26th of October at the same time. And following this session, we'll send you out an email with a link to the community group in LinkedIn. So you can join there where you'll also find recordings of this session, the last session, and other product stuff that we find very interesting. Please feel free to share stuff that you think might be valuable for your product colleagues as well. I wish you all a fabulous Wednesday, continuing creating those amazing digital products and platforms, and look forward to our next session. Bye now.
Okay, bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren Chatura, for contributing.